On this episode, we talk with the head of Bike Pittsburgh. Then we learn about Friends of the Riverfront. Free Ride recycles abandoned bicycles. The Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission looks at transportation issues. Finally, a study at Carnegie Mellon University examines the history of pedestrian crashes. Stay tuned. We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, talking with Scott Bricker, who's Executive Director of Bike Pittsburgh. What is Bike Pittsburgh?
We're a bicycle advocacy organization trying to make the city more bike-friendly.
How long have you been around?
We've been around 5 years now. We just had our 5th birthday party in May.
What sort of things have you been working on in that time?
Oh, tons of things. We've been mostly working with the city to enhance bicycle policy. We've been working on a handheld commuter bike map, which hasn't existed in Pittsburgh since 1992. So 15 years without a bike map. We need to start educating people which streets are best to use. So that'll be out in the next month. We are also working on striping more bike lanes, hiring a traffic engineer to vet our recommendations, and to get more stripes and shared lane markings on our streets, as well as signage.
So what are the policy issues that are important to cyclists? What has to be done?
Well, we want to make sure that cycling issues are addressed while streets are being looked at, as far as streetscaping and design is concerned. So we want to make sure that it's automatic that bicycle and pedestrian issues are looked at in the early stages.
And how does the city involve the public in developing policies that would affect bicyclists?
Well, prior to Bike Pittsburgh's existence, they didn't, and now we've brought these issues to the table. The city's now having a series of public meetings to address these issues. In fact, there's one tonight on cycling conditions in Oakland, which is one of our major employment centers in the city.
You got a lot of rivers here, a lot of bridges. What sort of issues does that bring up?
There are definitely issues with some of the bridges. One of the bridges downtown already has a really great bicycle and pedestrian access walkway to it. We're encouraging the city to sign it multi-use. We're also working with PennDOT, the State Department of Transportation, to enhance cycling conditions on one of the major connections between the South Side and Oakland. It's the Birmingham Bridge. Historically built to be this highway bridge, overbuilt, and now we're trying to enhance it with buffered bike lanes and blue bike lanes to go over the on and off ramps. And then also, and this is a huge win for the city, there's going to be a special bike pedestrian bridge that connects the far south side with a trail called the Eliza Furnace Trail, which also connects up into Oakland, and it really will seek to it will enhance biking greatly for the city.
And you mentioned PennDOT. How much of what you're trying to get done can the city do? How much do you have to rely on the state doing something?
It's interesting. There's actually a lot of different ownership issues. There's state, county, and city, local, and that's seen in bridge ownership. So dealing with certain bridges, we have to work with the county or work with the state on, such as the Birmingham Bridge. Even though it's in the city of Pittsburgh, it's a state bridge. So we're trying to work as well as we can to get statewide policies in place that address cycling issues systematically. But we're a very small organization with only 1.5 full-time people, so state issues tend to take more of a back burner compared to local issues. But we are trying, and we are trying to grow as well.
And you're a small organization, working on all these policy issues, but Do you ever do anything fun to involve the public in bicycling?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because, as a policy-centric organization, it could get really boring really quickly. But we have fun events. We have membership get-togethers now and again. We have a big blowout bicycle party in the summertime. We also have we put on the Bike to Work week and Bike to Work day festivities. But our biggest event, our flagship event, is called Bike Fest, and it's a community-run event. We just provide the framework and the marketing behind it. Any cycling events that are currently going on, races, things like that, we'll highlight it in the calendar. But we also seek to enhance those activities with our own and activities and events that are put on by other organizations or individuals and volunteers even. It's really fun.
We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, talking with Thomas Baxter, who's Executive Director of Friends of the Riverfront. What is Friends of the Riverfront?
Friends of the Riverfront's a 15-year-old membership-based organization, and our charge is to develop riverfront trails, water trails, and help care for them through a stewardship program. And our main trail system is the Three Rivers Heritage Trail along all three rivers in the Pittsburgh region.
And you say three rivers. So Pittsburgh has good potential for riverfront trails?
Excellent potential. We have more riverfront trails than most major cities, 21 right now, with another 15 being constructed or in the planning process at this time. So we're in good shape.
So what sort of people use your trails?
We've been doing user studies now for years and found that we have a whole myriad age groups, demographics. We're very pleased that there's no one sector that prefers using our trails. People use them for commuting, recreation, art space. It's a whole myriad of interesting uses.
What sort of challenges do you face trying to get these trails in place? And it's a developed city. How do you get a trail in?
Well, exactly. I think a lot of people have a misimage of Pittsburgh as the smoky steel town, and that's pretty much gone away since the 80s, and we're now one of the greenest cities in the country. So redeveloping brownfields, which were once steel mills, can be a challenging, working through existing municipalities along the riverfronts that have been there for several hundred years. We see it more as an opportunity than a challenge, an opportunity to bring people to those small businesses as part of the trail system instead of a constraint. It's good.
And you have some broader regional trails that go from Pittsburgh to Cumberland, Pittsburgh to Erie. What's going on outside the area that you can connect to?
Friends of the Riverfront's part of the Allegheny Trail Alliance, which is an effort to develop a trail from Pittsburgh to Cumberland, Maryland, and then from there to D.C. And we'll be hoping for completion between 2008 and 2010. We're also part of the initiative for a trail from Pittsburgh to Erie and a Millennium Trail from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg, PA. So we've got our hands full with trail development.
How does a city like Pittsburgh benefit from having a trail system like this?
Well, the Heritage Trail, the Three Rivers Heritage Trail, radiates out from Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh being the central hub, people tend to come here. They can link through here. There's a lot of existing businesses, restaurants, infrastructure. And then when you go further out into neighboring municipalities, Shaler, Sharpsburg, Etna, Millvale, Baldwin Borough, those are the smaller municipalities outside of Pittsburgh that also have the trail going through, and they also benefit from having that connection in and out of the city.
Who have you been working with to get this built? Governments, other organizations. What's it taken to get it all done?
It takes everybody. We're a membership-based organization, so our members are very supportive in what we do. We also work very closely and have partnerships with municipalities in which we're developing the trails through public-private partnership agreements. This allows us to easily develop trails, plan for new trails, and also come back after they're built and assist those municipalities with maintenance and long-term stewardship.
We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, talking with Andalusia Knoll, who's with Free Ride. What is Free Ride?
Free Ride is a nonprofit community-based recycled bike project that operates out of Point Breeze, a neighborhood in Pittsburgh, and we've been around for a little over 5 years, and in that time have put hundreds of bicycles, taken them from basements and places they've been abandoned, in backyards, garages, wherever, and taught people how to repair them and got them back onto the streets in safe, reliable conditions as transportation.
And how does this work? You have an old junk bike coming out of someone's basement. You have someone that needs a bike. How does this work?
Okay, so we're open a few days a week. Some days it's 3 days a week, and some days it's 4 days a week, because twice a month we have a special night that's for women and transgender people that might not want to come to on a normal night when the biking atmosphere is somewhat a more male atmosphere. But anyway, so we're open 3 to 4 days a week, and during those times, anyone could come in off the street and either bring in a bicycle that they've had in their basement or backyard or wherever, or they got at a yard sale or thrift store, etc. And then we have all the tools at our shop and also like hundreds of used parts, and we'll show them how to recycle that bike, how to fix it, if the derailleur is broken, if the shifting doesn't work, if it needs new brake pads, if it needs bearings all overhauled, all of that. We have mechanics on hand that are all volunteers that can show them what to do with it, and then all we just ask in exchange is that either they'll help us by volunteering, or that they'll donate some money or donate their time, with any kind of an assortment of activities that we always need at the shop. Like we needed new lights installed, so someone wanted their bike fixed, so we helped them fix their bike, and then they were an electrician and they helped us install new lights or things like that. It's a way of operating somewhat of mutual aid, that we're helping people repair their bikes and they're also helping us. And then we also have hundreds of bikes in our shop. We have a big warehouse space where people have donated those bikes to us, and then other people come in who want to get those bikes, and they can do what's called an Earn a Bike program, where they say, okay, I want this bike, and we say this bike is valued at, say, $30 if you just bought it as is. But instead of paying, they have the option of volunteering for that. So what they would do is, they might organize crank sets, or they might paint a new sign for the door, or they might strip down old bikes for parts, and then they'll work, say, 6 hours for that, and then also repair the bike with our assistance, and then the bike is theirs to keep.
When someone comes out of this, they have a bike, but they also know how to repair a bike?
They also know how to repair a bike, and that's really important, because that's why all those bikes ended up in basements often in the first place, or why they were forgotten, is because, someone gets a flat tire on their bike, and we're just not generally, some people might learn how to fix them, but so much of our society is based on kind of a throwaway culture, like something breaks, you get a new one, so that people are just used to, oh, your bike's broken, maybe I'll go get a new one, and then they can't maybe afford a new one. So they go to a bike shop and a new bike is $500, and they think, oh, I can't afford to buy one, but I don't know how to fix this one, and then they bring it somewhere to fix, and then they say, oh, it's, $20-something to fix that flat tire. Or if it's a more serious repair, sometimes you bring it to a bike shop and the bike shop will tell you, oh, it's not worth it for us to fix it because it will cost more to fix than to repair it. So, than to buy a new one. And so then we show people that you can fix it. Actually fixing a flat tire is really easy. You don't even need to buy a new tube. You could patch it. And showing people, okay, maybe if, your wheel seems like it stopped going, it's the bearings have, gotten all gunked up, and just show them all you really need to do is clean it out and put in some new grease. And just showing people that really they can fix things, and then hopefully when something goes wrong on their bike, they won't abandon it a second time in their basement, because they've acquired the skills to be able to repair it and keep it riding on the roads.
How do you involve young people in your organization?
We also have a youth program called Earn a Bike also, and we have different community organizations bring their youth groups or their summer camps to us, and they enroll in a series of classes where they learn, the first week they learn how to take a bike apart, they learn how to fix their brakes, they learn about rotational systems, about bearings, they learn, pretty much every different aspect of the bike, while also fixing a bike of their own that they will get to keep at the end of the class and get to go on a bike ride with the class, and while learning environmental ethics and how bicycles relate to our world and what a viable method of transportation they are that's non-polluting, that's healthy, and while learning those environmental ethics, they also sometimes we incorporate physics into the class and incorporate, pneumatics and why tires work with air in them and all those kind of aspects. And so we have both programs that take place at our shop, but we also have taught in some high schools, in charter high schools in downtown Pittsburgh, in a physics class that was a How Things Work class, and we taught bicycle repair while the teacher taught the physics of bicycles. And also, as far as other youth, every year we get donated more kids' bikes than we could ever deal with, because so many people, when their kids grow, then they just have these bikes and they don't know what to do with them. And so we get all these bikes donated, and then every time around the holidays, New Year's, we donate those bikes to different organizations. We've been donating them to Tree of Hope, an organization that works with children who've been victims of violence, or families who've been victims of violence, and they have like a holiday giveaway, and we give away 50 to 100 bikes every year that way. And then we also have like a teenage apprenticeship program where 4 teenagers are employed at our shop, and they also first learn bicycle repair, and then they later are able to bestow those skills upon other people and teach both our youth and adult programs and teach other people how to repair bicycles.
Now, how is Free Ride organized? How does the organization work?
Okay, Free Ride is a collective. We're a mostly all volunteer-run program where when we're open shop 4 days a week, then all the people that come anyone that comes to the shop that likes what Free Ride's doing can become involved. We have open meetings once a month.
We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, talking with Sarah Walfort with the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. What is the commission?
Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission is the metropolitan planning organization for the Metro Pittsburgh area. We encompass 10 counties, 7,000 square miles, about 2.2 million people. And in loose terms could be described sort of as an association of counties looking at regional transportation issues. Also we have a sister organization within the commission that looks at economic development. So we are responsible and charged with development of a regional transportation plan, a transportation improvement program, and an annual work program as part of our MPO designation.
Where would pedestrians and bicyclists fit into the work of the commission?
Well, we are intermodal and multimodal in our focus. We have a pedestrian bicycle advisory committee, just as we have a transit operators committee. We have a freight forum to discuss freight issues. Our pedestrian and bicycle committee really works to develop regional attention, regional priorities in the areas of trail development, recreational biking. We have sister relationships with other organizations that look at urban commuting, that sort of thing, try to facilitate some of their project priorities as well. On the pedestrian side, we're less likely. We are a big area. We've got a lot of municipal fragmentation. So our biggest pedestrian-friendly area would be the city of Pittsburgh itself, and facilitating their efforts and trying to expand those efforts outward into the suburban communities would be part of our mission.
And you're dealing with this large number of localities within your region. You also have the state that owns a lot of roads that come through the region. How much coordination do you have to do going up to the state level as well as down to the locality level? Or is that part of your job?
Wow, you hit that nail on the head. That is our job, basically. We serve as the liaison between the very local levels, the well-intentioned volunteer organization level, and PennDOT as our primary funding partner and implementation entity. We are fragmented because we do cover a large area. We fall within portions of 3 different PennDOT districts, each operating slightly differently with slightly different priorities, although all working together clearly. But our job is as liaison between the upper levels and the lower levels, and trying to be innovative and creative in terms of funding strategies and other things at the same time.
How have pedestrian and bicycle issues changed over the years? What's happening now that wouldn't have been happening 10 or 20 years ago?
Wow, that's an interesting question. What we are struggling for here in the Pittsburgh region is legitimacy of pedestrian and bicycle issues. We are challenged in a number of ways. We live in a very hilly terrain. Our road infrastructure tends to date back to the days when the roads were created following Indian trails. We have a lot of very narrow roads following very difficult terrain, rivers, etc. I think Allegheny County alone has something on the order of 900 bridges. Retrofitting those to accommodate bicycles and pedestrians in a friendly manner is difficult. So I think establishing legitimacy for pedestrians and bicyclists is our biggest challenge, and one that we've come a long way to solving. PennDOT, our planning partners at the county level, even at the municipal level, are now understanding that there are people who choose to or have to rely on pedestrianism or bicycle transportation for basic living purposes, not just because it's a fun thing to do.
We're at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, talking with Joel Tarr. What's your position here at the university?
My full title is the Richard Caligiuri University Professor of History and Policy. I'm a historian, but I also do policy work.
How did you get interested in pedestrian issues?
It's really a relatively a personal kind of episode. I was actually hit by a car that ran a stop sign practically on campus about 14 years ago, and I became concerned about safety on the campus and around the campus, in the streets, the public streets around the campus. And we did accomplish a few changes at that time, and then I moved away and from that topic and began working on other research topics. And then last year, in the spring of 2006, one of our undergraduate students was killed by an automobile after having gone shopping for a party for her roommate. She was getting off a bus and crossing in front of the bus, and a car came by, and we don't know whether the car went through a light or not. We don't think it went through a light, but we're not sure about this. And at any rate, she was killed. At that time, I decided that the subject was terrifically important. We didn't want to have more episodes involving at least the very minimum our students like that. And I decided to put together a couple of project classes looking at the whole issue of pedestrian safety historically in the city of Pittsburgh and pedestrian safety today. And there have been a couple of other deaths in the city, automobile-related deaths, where automobiles had hit pedestrians. For instance, a woman who had been walking a dog one evening was killed by a car that was speeding along a road. And so there was some concern in the city as a whole at that time, particularly one city councilman whose name is Bill Peduto was particularly interested in the pedestrian safety issue and what could be done to improve pedestrian safety in the city.
So what did you have your students do then?
Well, I had two classes, as I said, and one of them was composed of senior historians. It was the Senior History and Policy Seminar, and I had them work on the history of pedestrian safety in the city of Pittsburgh, basically from the mid-1920s up through the 1970s, which is where we basically ran out of data. The data was not available. And then I had another group of students that came primarily out of the policy school who were looked at the contemporary scene in regard to pedestrian safety. And we had difficulty getting data on the more contemporary scene in regard to accidents, particularly. Data for pedestrian deaths was available with the FARS data set on the web, but we had a lot of trouble getting data from the state, which controlled that data involving pedestrian injuries and where they had occurred. The state was afraid, it turned out, of liability if we identified the most hazardous intersections in the city. So what that group did was begin to compile whatever data they could and information they could about issues relating to pedestrian safety in the city in the last several years. And eventually we did get data from the state. It came after the end of the semester, though, and we were able to do some analysis of that data and to plot out locations, intersections were high-risk intersections, and also to look at aspects of pedestrian and driver behavior in accident situations. I should say crash situations. I know I'm not supposed to be using the word accident anymore.
Now, when you go back and look at 1920s, 1930s. What was the situation like back then in terms of pedestrian crashes and fatalities?
Yeah, one of the very striking things we found in doing the history was that the number of pedestrians killed as well as injured by automobiles in the 1920s and 30s and part of the 40s and 50s even was very, very high. And in the year 1929, I think it was, 200 pedestrians were killed by automobiles in the city of Pittsburgh. And from 1925 through approximately 1940, between 100 and 150 pedestrians were killed every single year by automobiles. That rate begins to go down slowly, really, in the 50s and 60s, but not very sharply until we reach the 1980s and 90s. And my theory about this is that pedestrians, of course, don't wear airbags to protect themselves, the way the drivers in cars do. But what happened was that there were tremendous improvements in emergency medical care and response times and in trauma centers, so that this meant that probably at least as many people were being injured by automobiles, pedestrians being injured by automobiles, but fewer were dying. And if you were hit by a car in 1935, you might have bled to death on the sidewalk before the ambulance could get to you. And of course, today there's a very quick response time. Emergency medical care is far improved.
What other research has been done like this in this part of the country? When you went out there to look at what was done, had much been done on this?
Well, one thing that surprised me when I began to look up the research on this subject was how little research there was on pedestrian safety. I began to find a couple of dissertations and a few articles, but many of the dissertations, I shouldn't say many, there were a couple. The books, one or two books that came out, and a couple of dissertations and a few articles, almost all stopped before the Second World War. So that I began to get some understanding of what was going on in other parts of the country from those historical works. But nobody had really looked at the post-World War II period and written about it. And of course, there's National Safety Council data, National Safety Council data, and other kinds of data. And we're trying to analyze that data now to get a sense about what the full history looks like and try to understand key turning points.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.